All right, Nick again here, and I'll be talking about today about the significant figures. Well, they are called significant figures. This is a series that continues on physical science and measurements in physical science. So we have this concept called significant figures. Could be a very challenging concept. It's also called significant digit, significant places, significant numbers, or very simply sig figs, significant figures. They are known by these various names. Before I delve into calculations and identification of these of the concept of these numbers, I want to question sort of the validity, I mean, the essence of this thing. Many people do not understand it, and the understanding of significant figures might be less of the issue of its complexity and more of whether or not the thing simply makes sense, because it's really not that difficult to understand. But at some point, individuals simply do not see the sense of doing it, or what's the point, type of thing. So my question is, does the concept of significant figure make sense? Why is it that so many people have problems with it? Ideas tend to make more sense if there is some sort of a practical application to these ideas in daily life. So you need to know what is a pound of sugar. You need to have a sense of what is a pound of sugar. What's a pound of banana, or even what's a liter of soda. But do you use significant figures when dealing with things like that in daily life? Do you use it in the supermarket? Do you use it at the gas station? If you go to a baseball game or a football game or any sporting activity, do you use it? How about on the beach? You go to the beach, you're having a party, even in church, in the hallways in school, do you use it? Now, is this something that you really need to use? Like, you would estimate the percent. Now, percent now is something that we use very, very often. You could just look at the percent of cars that you see in the morning before 8 a.m. Or you could look at the ratio of waiters to the number of tables. If you go into a restaurant, so you could see those things are things that you can actually see that have very, very practical application, because you deal with them every day and you constantly deal with them. When was the last time you heard about, okay, we're gonna do this up to X significant figure? For example, can you complete an entire degree in math or science without understanding significant figures? Now, if you can't do that, well, I guess the concept is very important. But if you can go through an entire degree program in math or any one of the sciences, and do not really fully understand a concept that is so simple, then you have to wonder, why is this important? The truth is that most people have completed degrees in math and science without fully understanding what significant figures really mean. That might suggest that for those disciplines it might not be as relevant. But there again, which other discipline could use significant figures? Um, Except in some areas of statistics. But basically it really is something about the physical sciences. Now, all that being said, there are certain levels of professionals. This is mainly in math and science, at that level. Take, for example, those that work in NASA or the space program. And in such a case, we could lose billions of dollars, not just millions, but billions of dollars if they simply do not know that the following had three significant figures. That is 4350, 4350, or 4350.0. If they did not know that those two numbers have three significant figures, then it could cost a lot of money. Actually, neither of them has three significant figures, and even though it might appear as if they do have three significant figures, neither of them actually has three significant figures, and I will be explaining that later when I begin to explain what significant figures are. Or, for example, how many people could, oh, sorry, many people could lose their lives because a medical engineer, those individuals that design medical equipment, but this medical engineer, for whatever reason, did not do the correct unit conversion. So he thought that 0.009486567 had seven significant digits or seven significant figures. That's what he thought. Again, it does have seven significant figures. So really, that's not why. In this case, that's not why the people were dying. They were dying for some other reason. It was because it was a faulty design, but it could have happened. But for those of you who thought that there were, let's say, 4, 8, 9, 10, or even 11 significant digits in that particular example, I will also be explaining that a little later. For many, significant figures were only heard of when a math teacher or science teacher would say, okay, you need to round up to the second or the third sig fig. Right? That's generally where we will hear something like that. These are generally pretty simple, and anything that looks like, for example, 4.31, and you would have gotten that from, let's say, 445, sorry, 45.31, and you would have gotten that from 45.31 to 4657, or 9.2, and you would have gotten that from 9.24768543. And those two numbers might seem acceptable for the big numbers. And typically, teachers will give you things like that, round to two significant figures or three significant figures, to prevent students from putting in that huge number, that they would have calculated, that they would have gotten from the calculator. Because that's a big problem sometimes, where students simply just put whatever number and put all the numbers that appear on the calculator. All right. Now that's very different from when a teacher is actually teaching about significant figures. When a teacher is teaching about significant figures as a separate topic, that is something very different. But the irksome feeling of significant figures does not go away. It really does not leave, because it's just counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense, or it doesn't seem to make any sense. For example, how could 56,000,000,000.345 have the same number of significant figures as 0.8657 432745. How is it that those two numbers that represent values that are so incredibly different, how could they have the same number of significant figures? Now, to be, I hope you were able to determine how many significant figures both of them have. And if not, that is what we'll be talking about. I'll be talking about in the next video. So you can watch the next video and see that. Alright, so and that's what I'll be explaining next video. I'll be starting with the rules. There are some rules that you need to know in order for you to work with significant figures, right? And those are the rules I'll be starting off with. I'll probably divide it into two sections, two videos, okay? Thank you very much. This is Nick. Until the next video.